Hello and welcome to Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falvo. On today's show, we'll look at some of New Jersey's biggest breaking news stories over the past decades with journalist Jen Maxfield. We'll also learn how New Jersey-based Verizon is helping everybody get access to their latest products. But first, it was recently announced that Great Point Studios and the New Jersey Performing Arts Center are partnering with Lionsgate to open a 12-acre film and TV complex in Newark. Here to tell us all about this exciting new era for Brick City is David Rodriguez, executive producer at NJPAC. Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Well, congratulations, because the Great Point Studios, I know, is something that you have been wanting for so long, and it's finally coming to fruition, which is so exciting for you and everybody at NJPAC.
Absolutely. I think NJPAC moved probably in the last 10 years to so much more of a content-driven institution as opposed to just, as they say, putting rear ends in seats at live concerts. We've really realized that there's an opportunity to so much more of a content-driven institution as opposed to just, as they say, putting rear ends in seats at live concerts. We've really realized that there's an opportunity to take content, create content, and have it resonate beyond being on our main stage, and that can not only let these projects have a wider view, but create jobs, economic development, and all those other great things that have made Newark really blossom.
Well, I think that's in thanks to you because of your background prior to coming to NJPAC. Do you mind educating us a little bit on that background and some of the programs that you've implemented here?
Working with AOL Live back in the 90s when everyone still had beepers, and we figured out that you can do a show and then maybe you just have a couple of thousand people there, but you can have millions of people join online, and that's grown and grown everywhere. I ran the Apollo Theater for a long period of time with Showtime at the Apollo and that type of thing. But since coming here, we've had America's Got Talent. We have just in the last, I guess, 2 weeks, had the Equalizer. We taped Whitney Cummings' new stand-up special. FBI Most Wanted was here. We are concurrently doing television at the same time we do live performances, and sometimes it's the same content.
Well, I think that kind of thinking was super important too, given what has happened over the past couple years, where you couldn't open your doors for a long period of time, but yet because of all this other content you were producing, it kept you in the spotlight.
I think it's really been a brand enhancer for us in a lot of different ways. We, different from many other performing arts center, didn't lay off masses of people. We said, gosh, there's an opportunity. Crisis is opportunity. And we said we can start providing content for those organizations that otherwise don't have the ability to do that. So something like our Hip Hop Nutcracker, which started out as a tour, now in its seventh season, I guess we had just taped something for public television, which just got an Emmy, and we said, gosh, why don't we do a virtual tour? And we went to over 100 markets, and we brought it into over 10,000 classrooms with discussions on equity and inclusion, discussions on wellness, all of those types of things. So in a sense, if I was a small performing arts organization in South Dakota or in Florida or whatever it might have been, you could get our content for free, and we would share it along with our sponsors. And people have gotten to know us for that content creation. We created over 500 different programs during the pandemic.
Wow, that's a big number. And that's unbelievable. Well, I want to circle back to Great Point Studios. Talk to us about what the studios will entail and how special this is for NJPAC and Greater Newark.
Well, for NJPAC, the 20,000 feet up story is that it creates a center for the creation of content in Newark, that you can come to our studios that are here at NJPAC and rehearse programs. And then if you wanted to tech these programs to go to the stage, you can go to any of NJPAC's 3 stages. If you wanted to tour, we can create the possibility of touring projects. And now, if you want to tape it, you can go to these studios. It's roughly $150 million investment, and 5 studios, 2 of which will be the largest studios on the East Coast. They'll be 30,000 square feet, and another 3 that are 20,000 square feet. We want to make sure that the workforce reflects the diversity of Newark, and the excitement of Newark. Both those people living here and from all throughout the New Jersey region.
It's going to create so many jobs, so many opportunities. What are you most excited about?
I think as an organization, what you can do more than anything is to create a canvas for artists to create. And this canvas is going to be state of the art, but it's also going to be cost effective. We can do, doing things in Newark is 30 cents on the dollar versus doing things in New York City. We were very fortunate to have our Governor Murphy, put in a tax credit program specifically for this type of activity. And that's really, at the end of the day, what got everyone together.
And NJPAC was so instrumental in revitalizing Newark downtown. I have to imagine that with these studios coming in, more of those revitalization projects are going to be happening around the area in which the studio will reside.
One of the great things about the studio is that there is affordable housing being built next door to it. And there's also new multi-use housing right next door to NJPAC that's about to be built, including restaurants and all those types of things that make Newark a destination. The thought is you just don't want to come to Newark to see a performance at NJPAC. You want to go to the Ironbound District and try some of the food there. You want to really see some of the programs. We're doing programming in 5 different city parks. There's amazing work being done by the Newark Arts Collaborative. There's amazing work being done by Audible, and their main headquarters is right across the street.
Where can people find out more about you and NJPAC?
Go to njpac.org, and you can find all kinds of information about this project and the programs that happen here every day, from our arts education programs to our performance programs to our community outreach programs. NJPAC is a not-for-profit and the largest not-for-profit arts institution in the state of New Jersey. And our hope at the end of the day is to really make an impact at all levels. And this project is a big component of that. And we thank you for letting more people know.
And you are a big component as well, because just your passion comes through so beautifully. And I know there's lots of great things to come in the future.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you. For over 20 years, journalist and Bergen County native Jen Maxfield has been in the thick of the biggest breaking news stories here in New Jersey. She's here now to reflect on her storied career. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa Marie.
Well, we're really excited to have you here. And I know that you did a lot of reflecting on your career, so much so that you wrote a book about the biggest breaking news that you've been a part of. So tell us about it.
So my book, More After the Break, A Reporter Returns to 10 Unforgettable News Stories, was a book that I'd been wanting to write for a while because I had been thinking about these people for a long time. I think that sometimes people envision that we do these stories and they air on the news and we just move on to the next thing. And the truth of it is that while the news cycle continues, there are certainly news stories that I've covered here in New Jersey that I never forgot, and I never forgot the people. And even years or decades after I left those news scenes, I would find myself thinking about them or driving near their house or even having dreams about them and having some unresolved questions and some stories I wanted to go back and investigate further.
What are some of those stories?
Things that would be familiar to a New Jersey audience. I go back and speak with families who were impacted by Hurricane Sandy. I go back to a family whose daughter was killed by a hit and run driver when she was trying to help a dog out of the road. And I went back to the family of Darren Drake, who's the young man who was killed in the terrorist attack in Lower Manhattan back in 2017. And one of the last chapters, one of the most recent stories, is the Paramus school bus crash, which happened in 2018. Those kids were in fifth grade when that happened, and now they're all finishing up ninth grade in high school.
Wow, you just gave me chills when you mentioned that last story, because that literally seemed like it happened yesterday. What were some of the things that you learned in going back?
I think what I learned, and one of the reasons it was so humbling to write this book and to go back to the families, is in the introduction, I quote a saying that I've always liked through my career, which is that news is the first rough draft of history. We are at these scenes so soon after things happen, and we get very accurate stories out on the air for the most part. But I think when we talk about something being a rough draft, it's because our stories are airing so soon after things happen that neither we as the reporters nor the people who we're interviewing have really had time to reflect on what happened or to understand what would come next after these catastrophic events. And so what's been humbling about going back to the families now is how much has happened since we left the news scenes, and how in many cases the news coverage that was done in the wake of some of these incidents has actually really helped enact change in some cases. You were interested in the Paramus school bus story. Well, after that crash, one of the girls who survived, a 10-year-old girl named Zaina Madihan, wound up speaking on the floor of Congress, going to the State House in Trenton and lobbying politicians to make school buses safer for kids across the country. So out of that horrible tragedy, where both her teacher and her best friend died after that crash, she was able to enact change and use her voice to really make a difference.
Well, you are making a difference by doing this, and it's so easy to see why you've had so much success in your career, because you genuinely care about what you're reporting and who you're meeting. How did you get started in your journalism career?
Oh, well, thank you, Lisa Marie. And I should note that I do care so much about the subjects of my stories, and I don't think I'm unique in that sense. I think a lot of us get into the news business because we really enjoy people and we genuinely like to meet people and hear about their lives, and it does impact us as reporters and photographers when we go out and we cover these stories. But you asked about how I got into the business. I, probably like you as well, am a people person. I've always been an extrovert. I enjoyed speaking with people. And so I used to write for the school newspaper because I always liked to write, but I thought that I wanted to be a doctor, like my dad. And so when I went to college, I was pre-med. And it wasn't until my junior year when I got an internship at CNN at the United Nations and worked with Gary Tuchman, who's one of their top correspondents, that I really got the bug, and I thought, this is something I could do. It combines my interest in writing with how much I love meeting new people and going to new places. And that was it. So I worked at CNN part-time as an undergrad, and then I went to Columbia Journalism School. And then I had to leave my beloved home state of New Jersey to go to upstate New York for my first job in news, which was in Binghamton, New York, back in July of 2000, so almost 22 years ago now. I moved to Binghamton not knowing a single person, and I do remember some lonely days and nights when I first got up there. I got a one-bedroom apartment that I was living in by myself, but I was quickly adopted by the people who I was working with at the station. And another interesting story about starting there, I was hired as a general assignment reporter in Binghamton, and within 6 weeks of being hired at the station, one of the lead anchors left to take another job. So I became the 6 and the 11 p.m. news anchor very soon after arriving at the station with very little anchoring experience. So sometimes I cringe when I go back and I look at those tapes. I used to send I'm dating myself here, but I used to send actual VHS tapes home to my parents and my grandparents. So I still have some of those now, but I look back and I say, well, that was news that only a parent could love.
So when you came back home to New Jersey to be on air with some of the biggest channels in the world, right? I mean, we're the #1 media market and you're right in the thick of it. How was that for you? Was it a little intimidating?
It was extremely intimidating. I was 25 years old when I was hired at Eyewitness News back in 2002, and I was hired to be their New Jersey correspondent because I grew up in Bergen County, graduated from Tenafly High School, and I knew a lot about the state. And so I was thrilled to be back in my home state reporting, but I quickly learned that despite my experience and having grown up in New Jersey, I still had a lot to learn just about reporting the news and being able to work at that fast New York City pace. And so sometimes people would see me show up on stories and they would say, how old are you? When did you start? And I'd say something like, oh, I'm in my late 20s, because I wouldn't want to specify at the time that I was only 25 years old. But I credit a lot of the photographers that I worked with at that time for really helping me get up to speed, helping me behind the scenes, knowing more about just the geography of the state or who we might want to speak with on various stories. And one of the things that I write about in my book as well is how I never report a story on my own. I'm always working as part of a team. And the team includes the photographer that I'm working with, but it also includes the people back at the station, whether that's an assignment desk manager or a managing editor or someone who's working in L control, taking in the live shots and the satellite feeds. It really is a team effort. And I think it's important that people know that when they watch us on the news, that we're not operating in a vacuum. You may see my face on the news, but there are so many other people whose effort goes into that.
Absolutely. It's definitely not a one-man band. How did you get the time to do this book? Because you're on the air, you're teaching, you're very philanthropic, and you have a family.
Yes, I have 3 children. My son is 15 and my daughters are 14 and 11. And I'm married to my college boyfriend who I met in an art history class at Columbia a long time ago. And so as I mentioned earlier, I do really like to write. And I had the idea to do this book in 2020 when a lot of my children's activities were curtailed due to COVID and we were all spending more time at home. What I did was every day I would dedicate an hour or 2 in the morning, typically before my family woke up, where it was quiet and I could focus, and I would spend that time writing the book. And then later in the day, once my children were in school, I could do more of the research, the interviews, some of the background research with legal documents or letters and all of the other things that went into the book. But the actual writing of the book, which I did do myself, by the way. Some people have asked me whether I actually wrote it myself. Yes, I did. And I think what will make it so interesting for readers is that whatever you think happened on these stories, there's so much more to the story. And there's more that I can tell you. And frankly, look, the stories that I put on the news, which I'm very proud of, the first stories that went out in all these stories, but each one of them is about 2 minutes long. And there's only so much I can share with you in 2 minutes. So what's been felt at times even luxurious sometimes while I was writing and researching the book is just having the time and the space to be able to tell people's stories with just a level of detail that wasn't possible the first time. The more that I talk to people about this book, the more that people will say, oh, you know what news story you might want to look into? I'm still wondering about what happened to this person. And so I do keep a file in the notes on my phone with other ideas. And I did just start a podcast called the More After the Break podcast, where people can hear me interview some of the people, some who were interviewed for my book and others on separate stories about how things have gone since I first met them, whenever that was.
You are such career goals for me. I'm so happy that we came together today. You are doing amazing stuff, and I can't wait to watch you evolve and grow even more. Where can people find out more about you, the book, the podcast?
Oh, well, Lisa Marie, it's been such a pleasure for me, and I so enjoy your show. Thank you for having me today and for thinking of me for this segment. If people want to learn more about me or connect, they can go to my website, which is jenmaxfield.com. And you can also find me on social media at Jen Maxfield News.
Thank you so much, Jen. I look forward to meeting you in person one day, hopefully at your book launch.
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing you, Lisa Marie. Thanks again.
New Jersey-based Verizon recently did a survey and found that 2 in 5 people are reevaluating their expenses as we head into summer. Here to share some ways folks watching can get the most value is Andrew Testa, PR manager for Verizon. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much for having me.
What are some savings hacks that you would like to share with our audience?
Folks are really starting to look for ways to really stretch their dollar. And, I've got lots of ways to share about how you can really get the most out of your wireless bill. Because, again, we're all trying to get the most bang for our buck. First thing you're going to want to do is look for deals. And the great news for consumers is there's some really great deals out there.
And I know that you and Verizon are working not only for everyone to have a shiny new cell phone, but also to have access to internet. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so my second tip that I think is a little known hack is being able to pair your phone service with your home internet service. And so, we actually, as part of the study that we commissioned, we found that 51 million people have no idea what they're paying for home internet these days. And
how is that possible?
51 million people. I know it's a lot, especially during the times like we mentioned, right? And those that do, think that they think they're paying $137 a month for home internet, which is it's exorbitant. And so I think as we said, we're looking at inflation, high gas prices. Looking to pair your wireless phone service with your home internet, that's where you can really get the most bang for your buck. But I think the other option that is really great for consumers, especially that are really facing costs as a barrier, is Verizon's very proud to be participating in the FCC's Affordable Connectivity Program. And what that is it gives us the opportunity to provide our home internet for free. So consumers can go to verizon.com/affordable connectivity program. They can see if they qualify for the program and learn about more information there, which I think is just a really great option. We know folks are feeling the pinch. And so I think to be able to participate in that program to help close that digital divide, something we're really proud of.
What other hacks do you have for us to save on our wireless bills?
I think what many folks don't realize is they have amazing perks that are included in their plan that they may already be paying for, but maybe just not using. One of the things that I think is most popular is the Disney bundle, right? So we've got Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu, things like that. Like if you use those streaming services, there's no sense in paying extra for them. And so I think, having those included in your plan, being able to use them can really be a really good money saving hack and making sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck.
Verizon is headquartered here in New Jersey. Talk to us about the company's footprint.
Sure. So as you mentioned, Verizon's their headquarters is in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. I actually live about 20 minutes in Denville. I'm a New Jersey guy, grown through and through, Seton Hall Pirate, and have lived here all my life. So it's been great working for a company like Verizon that's just 20 minutes down the road from me. But I think working at Verizon has been just an amazing opportunity for me and many New Jerseyans. As lots of New Jersey folks work for the company. And I've been fortunate enough to be able to work for the communications team, where I've represented Verizon all across the country, talking about our story and telling the Verizon story, be able to talk about our products and services and help as many people as we can stay connected.
What is Verizon's story?
Yeah, so I think what we do is we take such pride in keeping people connected. And, I think right now, it's just a super exciting time. We've been building out our 5G ultra wideband network across the country being able to deliver those really fast transformational speeds that really, I think you could only imagine as recent as only a few years ago. Being able to really put that into the world and being able to see such this huge technology shift. So to be able to be on the front lines and tell that story is really cool.
Well, where can people find out more about you and Verizon here in New Jersey?
For those folks who are interested in learning about the ACP program that I mentioned, verizon.com/affordable connectivity program.
Great. Well, we also have to shout out our Hobart fan club watching this right now. that I know we're really excited about us coming here today. So Andrew, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your summer.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falvo. We'll see you back here next week.